on the field. You're going to have talent.
This one here is a little bit different.
You're going to have that team.
Well, with your son in Baroque,
well, yeah, but we've been aiming for this now for about 6 years, so they better perform each year.
Let's call this regular meeting of the Ketchikan City Council order. Please call the roll.
Kiefer.
Here.
Coos.
Here.
Flora.
Here.
Zingy. Here. Gage.
Yes.
Stevenson.
Here.
Aye.
Please join us in Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. That brings us down to persons to be heard. Agnes, you want to start us off?
Agnes Moran, the Idiot Wish. For those who don't know, I'm not sure why I did that to myself. But we had a very successful Girls on the Run program. I think we had 45 girls participate this year, and that was in large part due to your funding because you support, in part, the position that runs that program. So I wanted to start off by saying thank you for that. I know that you have your Ketchikan Regional Youth Facility on the agenda tonight. We are still interested in it. The problem is, even though I have overturned just about every stone I can, I haven't been able to come up with funding for it. In my perfect world, if I could move my shelter into CRIF, then that would leave my existing shelter for either a homeless shelter or transitional housing, which we have very little of in this community. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get the stars to line up for that yet, so I will keep working on it until you actually sign off on handing that facility over to somebody else. But we're interested. I just haven't been successful yet. So, any questions?
Any questions? Judy?
Have you looked into the Community Development Block Grant Program?
I've looked recently. Amy Briggs brought that to my attention, but that requires a partnership with the municipality, either the borough or for you folks. I think it would be a good match for this community or for this program because in the paperwork they actually do call out sexual assault shelters as something that would be eligible for funding under that program.
Okay, so it would take our involvement in this for you to get.
Yeah,
okay.
It would be those grants are only available to municipalities, but you can partner with a nonprofit organization, and you would basically be the funnel for it. The money would come to you, and then you would dispense it. So it's a partnership program if you were to partner with a nonprofit. And they can be significant. Those can go up to like $850,000, so they can be a good chunk of money. Unfortunately, from what I've been able to see, I haven't really seen anybody in Southern Southeast utilize that program much. And I'm not sure if it's because they have a 51% low income or low to moderate income, and Ketchikan as a whole doesn't usually qualify for that, but those grants allow you to target specific populations. And if you were to target the homeless or some of the underserved population, you would be targeting a group that is, in my case, probably 100% low to moderate income.
Thank you.
So,
Dave has a question too.
When you say a match, are you talking about matching grant or just partner? I mean,
it would be a partnership. We'd have to have some sort of partnership. I think probably your best bet would have staff kind of investigate it. It would be a partnership. You would actually be the grant. If I understand it correctly, you would be the grant holder, and then we would be subsidiary to you. If that's the way I understand it.
I think that's correct, and there's a 25% local match as a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if the value of that building is $1.4 million, I think you would probably have a pretty strong argument for your match.
That's true.
Great.
Anybody else? Thank you, Agnes.
Thank you.
Mary, you're next.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Stevenson. I'm a tour guide and a veteran of 30 years in the tourist industry. I have a note to myself that I put it out there to the city the first of the week. Did anyone check into the fish ladder as to whether that white zone is permissible for us to use? The rumor going through the mill is that it's off limits.
Mark, do you have an answer for that?
I believe it is not off limits. I believe it is
Good.
available.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Throughout the course of 1 week or so, you've all been recipient of a packet. This has all been discussed with the tour operators in general. There's about 17 operators that have been approved by the city to conduct business. I've sort of filtered through most of them, listening, and that was a result of my research. Today, what you're receiving is a summary. I have I've gone in and researched, following the dock vendor guidelines of size of vehicles and such, what they look like, so you get a better understanding as to who is doing business. And on the back side is basically summarizing the questions that are still out there. We're waiting for both the borough's planning department as well as the city to answer the legalities of that whole amendment to begin with. And ultimately, our request is to rescind that amendment within the next 2 weeks, if humanly possible, and let us get back to work at using Mountain Point for the rest of 2018, and to sort out and mediate a resolution in time for 2019. In summary, bad business practices are pushed into the dark. When fairness, loyalty, integrity, and honesty are not honored in daily transactions, when accountability is owned only when caught in the deception, the questions are asked, and like the light is flipped on, the bugs scatter. What has happened at Mountain Point is a good example of poor leadership and lack of moral compass towards the business owners in Ketchikan. It is time to acknowledge Ketchikan does not have a healthy relationship with retailers, hotelers, restaurants, air, land, and sea tour operators. Long-time loyal constituents will abandon their investments instead of restoring, replacing, or rebuilding after asking for assistance was denied. The pendulum is swinging, as it does with hard realities, and Ketchikan is losing its soul to the cruise ship industry. The 6 tour operators who signed the 2018 dock vendor contracts represent over 125 years of expertise in tourism. Their business has strengthened the Ketchikan's economy and helped balance the annual budgets of both the city and borough shortfalls. One has commented that it's doubtful he will sign the next contract in 2020. He would rather close shop and retire than continue to do battle with City Hall. Take a good look at who stands in the wings waiting for a chance to conduct business on the dock. It's a new generation of operators who are frugal, with a frugal expense budget, and a legal team ready to dismantle the petty, greedy, and demanding terms placed on the port by the cruise ship companies. The process of restricting Mountain Point brought out the worst in the city manager and director of Ports and Harbor, as they tried to justify the restraints through the dock vendor contracts without even trying to mediate a solution. I am only the messenger. None of the tour operators have told me to stop my efforts, and in personal conversations with each of them have revealed unprofessional conduct by the leadership of the city of Ketchikan, as if there is a deep-seated grudge that will never heal unless one quits, is fired, or retires. I submit a list of their demands. In summary, rescind this ridiculous, poorly written amendment immediately. Bring the fishermen and the tour operators together and mediate a solution whereby everyone is a winner and no one is a loser. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'll talk to Steve and Carl when they both get back to town too, and talk to some of the tour guys. So
Thank you very much.
you bet. Thanks, Mary.
Have a good one.
All right. Is there anybody else here that didn't sign up would like to address the council tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. We got a consent. I have a few to bring up that might want to add. 6A1, the electric code thing. 6A2, the Schoenbar Road thing we did last time, and then our appointments of Mr. Stanton for Mrs. Stanton's seat on the museum. And then I have
Creating a legacy that we
7A5, the contract for the doors at the Ted Ferry, and then 7B, 2, 3, and 4, all the things with the tower up there at Skagway. Does anybody have any problems with any of that?
I've got some questions on those three you just named, but we can do it.
Good time. Let's add them to the consent and then ask your questions.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Madam. Oh, we need a motion, please.
Your Honor, I move the consent.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, can you read the items?
Approval of minutes, regular city council meeting of May 17th, 2018. Award of 2018 hazardous household waste collection and removal agreement with Clean Harbors Environmental Services, Inc. Exempting the procurement of annual telephone switch platform software support and maintenance service from the competitive bidding written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, SONUS. Exempting the procurement of SCADA maintenance support services from competitive bidding written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, Open Systems International, Inc. The draft Swan Lake operations and maintenance budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. Ordinance number 1880, amending subsection A and B of the Ketchikan Municipal Code 19.12.010 entitled National Electric Code adopted to adopt the 2017 edition of the National Electrical Code in second reading. Ordinance number 1881, amending the Ketchikan Municipal Code section 5.40.021 entitled Use of 3rd Avenue and Schoenbar Road Restricted, concerning sightseeing vehicles in 3rd Avenue and Schoenbar Road, second reading. Appointments to boards and commissions by Mayor Williams. Award of contract number 1818 Ted Ferry Civic Center Interior Door Project. Exempting the procurement of the Skagway, Alaska Tower space and power from the competitive bidding written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, AT&T Wireless. Exempting the procurement of Skagway, Alaska Tower antenna and equipment installation services from the competitive bidding written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code for New Horizons Telecom, Inc., and exempting the lease of the transport services from Skagway, Alaska from the competitive written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, AT&T Wireless.
All right, Dick, you had some questions?
Yeah, and there's one other thing I want to make a comment on. I guess I'm disappointed that the Swan Lake operations and maintenance budget's on your consent agenda. Normally we take a look at it, and personally I think there's some questions we should be asking. One, and I'll just make this comment, one, I don't believe there's a need for a dual bunkhouse out there that they want for $500,000. Yeah, and but I think the SEPA board will see it and take care of it. So I'll leave that one alone. Now, on to the three that deal with the Skagway Tower and space. Just as I read through that, and we sort of booted AT&T out of the picture, and we negotiated with AT&T, and then we were going to exempt the lease from AT&T. I almost see, I can't understand why there's not a competitive bid between AT&T and AT&T, the way that's written. And I guess I need an explanation from
Ed, can you come on up?
I mean, it looks like it may be cheaper, but did we give AT&T a chance to competitively bid what we needed?
Ed Cushing, Division Manager, KP Telecommunications. Yes, we worked with AT&T for quite a long period of time to get pricing for circuits and the space and power that we need on their tower and in their building. Ultimately, they came back with a price for circuits that was higher than AT&T, and a price for modifying their building and tower that was $100,000, roughly $70,000 more than the cost of installing our equipment, one-time cost of installing our equipment in the AT&T location. Beyond that, AT&T's monthly charges for being in their building and on their tower, and their monthly cost, along with their monthly cost for circuits, is roughly $3,000 a month cheaper than AT&T. If we were to, in doing a apples to apples comparison over the first 3 years, in the aggregate, including the AT&T one-time installation charges or modification charges, AT&T is $180,000 cheaper. If you back out that $70,000 for the difference between the two, it's still a savings of about $110,000 over 3 years. So no matter how you look at this, AT&T is much less expensive than AT&T. I would also comment that AT&T is monolithic and difficult to work with. We're not a priority to them. It took us 7 months to get to this point. So that's the...
Okay, just on the surface there, the way it went through, it just looked to me like there was a potential for a competitive bid, but maybe it went through the non-competitive bidding process to get here.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else questions on the consent agenda? Call the roll.
Severson?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Flora?
Yes.
Coos?
Yep.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. That brings us down to new business, 7A1, budget transfer, Alaska Marine Highway System Reform Project. They're looking for financial assistance again like we did before. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I move the City Council approve a donation to Southeast Conference in the amount determined appropriate by the City Council in support of Southeast Conference Alaska Marine Highway System Reform Project, and authorize a budget transfer and comparable amount from the appropriated reserves of the general fund of the City Council 2018 Community Promotion Account, account number 610-01.
Moved and seconded. Bob, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I contacted Mr. Venables over the weekend and asked for an accounting of how they spent the last amount of money. I guess I was also concerned moving forward of how much the state was contributing, as this is a process whereby they can improve the state business model, I think, to run these things, and the state should be a fairly large contributor to this project. So I don't know what the right amount is. They did get some stuff through the legislature this year to move forward, but I know there's a bunch more details. But and in our request, they said either this year or next year, so I don't know how much of an urgency is involved in that. So I was just looking for some more clarification.
Anybody else? Dave?
Yeah, I guess I'm after reading through it a couple of times, I wasn't quite sure what the money was going to go for. Is it to go to lobby the legislature to pass the thing? Then I don't know. Is it to go to the process itself, which, as you mentioned, the state needs to be putting on me too. I mean, I 100% support this, but I'm just not sure where the money's going. And I guess if I had a sense of what they want that money for, I'd probably be much more inclined to say, take it.
Dick?
I think what they spent the money on the last go-around more for was those contractors that put the plan together. And the plan, I don't know whether it's completed to the point that the legislature is going to say absolutely approve it and it's got to be implemented. You're right. Where it's going this time, I don't know. And I don't know that Bob did Venerable say has any other community helped him out yet that they know of, or do they?
He did not state that. He said they were probably doing the same thing in regard to an ask. So I think that it's prudent for us to support this, but I think I'd like to have a little bit of accounting of what they've done and some kind of a budget of where they're going.
Yeah, what exactly this is going to be.
Yeah, and who the contributors are involved in that. So, and I don't know that this is something we need to pass at this meeting. So I guess we could probably defer it until such time as we get a response back from Southeast Conference.
Do we have a second for that amendment or motion?
To defer.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, and then we'll find out what they're wanting to use. Well, we're looking for if anybody else has donated yet and what that money is going to be spent on, professional services, lobbying, whatever.
Hang on just a second.
You bet. All right, so we'll vote on the deferral. You ready?
Kiefer,
Yes.
Coos,
Yes.
Flora,
Yes.
Zingy,
Yes.
Gage,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
All right, that passes. I guess it's not 7. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6. Okay, that brings us down to 782 623 Gateway Court, former Ketchikan Regional Youth Facility. We have a motion.
Your Honor,
Go ahead, Dave.
I move the City Council direct staff to take such action regarding the disposition of 623 Gateway Court, former Ketchikan Regional Youth Facility, as determined appropriate by the City Council.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Dave, you want to tell us what we'd like to
I get, I mean, obviously we offered it out there at 1 point, whatever million, whatever it's worth. We got the takers. There might be someone willing to pay less than that. I'm sure there's probably, if we keep going down, we can do like, we can talk who it all the way down to virtually nothing and someone will eventually step up. I guess I would be interested in pursuing what the Councilmember Zengi mentioned. I mean, I don't know what it's going to cost. I don't know whether we want to do it, but that might be an option.
Yeah,
If we
I'd like
could
to
get some federal grant money and turn it over to what I consider it to be a worthy local nonprofit.
Anybody else? Bob? Then Mark.
Well, I think that we could still leave it out there with an offer without incorporating the appraised value. And continue to see if there's any takers out there and give us some time to work on a potential plan that would, I think, move it into a nonprofit hand. Again, it's somewhat tricky with that facility. It's going to be very hard to remodel.
Yeah.
It's going to take some capital to get that done.
Yeah.
And to what extent is the local government, not just the city, willing to get involved in that? Because there may be some long-term subsidies involved in that. And I think we need to know all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that just to take the minimum off it, leave it out there as an offer for sale, and then I don't know if that we need anything formal to move it over to a nonprofit at this time. I think we'll just continue to work on that.
Mark?
Well, oh, I'm sorry. Go.
I agree with Councilmember Kiefer. I think that's probably the best direction to go with this particular property. This came up, and this has been a year, and holding costs, and I had mentioned the 1.3 million, which we knew was never going to happen. Now we've tried it without a minimum, and nothing's happened. I think for this particular parcel, this particular institutionalized special use building, seeing if we can partner is the best way to go. But this got me thinking about a larger issue, and Mr. Hilson was kind enough to help me. We've got 39 properties that the city owns free title on, $1,577,390. I'd like to see staff work on a process a process to evolve where we can get this list a lot smaller and get some of these properties back on the tax rolls. Because right now, all we have is holding costs instead. So we're kind of getting.
Mayor Lou?
Yeah, Janelle.
Can I? Yeah, I'm curious to know, based on the amount of money we put in every year to keep these buildings up, and I know that I'm wondering if there's a process where if we were to put what it would cost for the city to remodel the building so then it is more comparable to doing something with it versus just shelling out money to keep it in the shape that it's in. Is that something that maybe we could look at what it would cost to revamp the building and make it comparable for someone to use versus just shelling out?
Well, we can always ask management to do that Let me get a couple more people in here. Judy, then Bob.
I thought when we went through this before, we had a list of properties that we had to deal with. I thought we came up with some kind of a plan then to get those to us a lot quicker. What happened to that is what I'm wondering.
Well, I can say that we did go through all the vacant properties. We tried to establish whether we had good and marketable title, so that whittled down this list quite a bit. And then we tried to determine if there were properties that were within a redemption period or would require some other process to dispose of. And so we've got it down to a list of 39.
Okay, so there's actually
And
more properties.
There's more in the background, yes.
And one more question.
You go.
When was the last time we had a sale? Because we did have a
We did
sale,
a
wasn't it,
sale
a couple of
a
years ago. Yeah, okay.
We can do it again, or we can get off.
So we were looking at ways to streamline the sale as well. Some of those may have some legal implications that we're trying to work through, but we were looking at trying to streamline it, make it a little easier so that when these properties are ready and they come up, we can just dispose of them as opposed to accumulating them and
Right.
having them go in big batches. So that was the right.
So where are we in the process if we wanted to start selling some of these? Is there some up that we could start pushing for sale?
Yeah, I would think it would be appropriate for staff to try to bring forward a list of ones that seem to make sense to dispose of and outline the process in working with the city attorney's office. And of course, all of this would come down from Carl. But if that's the will of the council, we can make that a priority, I'm sure.
Council interested in that? It looks like it's the will.
Four hands, okay. And just getting back to Bob's comment, specifically with regard to the CRIF building, he mentioned to leave it out there for sale. So just to be clear, that building was advertised for sale. There was a due date for bids. None were received. So is it the will of the council to re-advertise it so that it is out there, for sale, or
You can't just call up the realty guys and tell them to try to sell the building?
well, perhaps we can, but that's not.
You want more ads. So
Yeah.
I'd rather sell the building.
yeah, me either.
Okay, Bob's next.
Yeah, the last time we went out with that, Mark, we had a sale price with the appraised value, that rec 1.4.
No, the last time we went out with no minimum, but the right to reject all bids.
Okay.
All right.
So,
And then the other option about the city remodeling it, unless we knew what the actual end use was, it doesn't
We're
make
going
any
to
sense.
remodel it too.
Did you hear that, Jenna Lee?
Yeah,
Okay. Judy?
so it
Yeah.
would be our intent to put it back out there with no minimum? Is that what what you're saying?
I think it stays the status quo, yeah.
Yeah,
And then, can we still look into the block grant program?
Oh, yeah.
think-
Yeah, that's all, everything else is still available.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we still have the staff do that.
Put it all
Well,
on the
and-
table.
And in the case of a specific user like Wish, I think we could probably come up with a rough estimate, a rough order of magnitude of what it would cost for their use, what it would take to get them in the building. But I agree, if it's just some ambiguous use, we couldn't come up with that. So we could bring that back as
yeah,
well.
good.
So I don't think we need to call roll. I think you got some direction.
We got
Oh, here we go. Oh, no.
No, I just need to be clear on the direction. I think Mr. Hilson's right. There's no pending disposal mechanism in place right now after we got 0 on 0.
Yeah, so I think it's
So-
the status quo and we work on the other option.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. If nobody else has anything else on that, we'll just call that direction. Dick?
Well, then why can't we put the disposal in place? We're going to do it with other properties. It's just a matter of us saying it's for sale.
Yeah.
Put a sign on it.
Put a sign on it. Give it to the realtors. Let them work on it. And if something else, if the block grant thing comes along, we take it off the market.
Wouldn't that be part
We're
of
just
the,
sitting with it.
wouldn't that be part of the larger process that they're going to try to refine for the total list anyway?
It would, and to list the property, there's an agreement required, so that would have to come back. But if council wanted us to investigate whether we could list it with a realtor and what that would take and all of that, we can get that process started.
Why don't you come back to us?
Yeah. It's doing us no good just sitting here sitting on our hands.
Right.
All right. Anybody else? Let's move on. Okay, that brings us down to 7A3, Resolution 1827-01, levying a general property tax for municipal purposes upon all real and business personal property in the city for the year 2018, providing for the collection of taxes due 2018, prescribing penalties and interest for delinquent taxes. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move the City Council rescind its May 17, 2018 approval of the transaction documents. That's the wrong one.
Yeah.
There you go. Wrong computer.
Or we could just rescind the
We can do that. We can do that one too. Right?
congratulations, we're not collecting any taxes. Very good.
I move the City Council approve resolution number 182701, levying general property tax for municipal purpose upon all real and business properties in the city of Ketchikan for the year 2018, providing for the collection of tax due to 2018, prescribing penalties and interest and delinquent tax and establishing effective date.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bob, do you want anything?
No, I agree with management in regards to what they're doing here.
Well, I only have one problem. Bob gets all the credit. Read that letter Bob Newell says. Bob Newell says.
I got a couple
Mark,
of comments.
go ahead.
I can get behind this, but let's be clear. The word deficit is in the descriptor of why we're doing this. So we may be back here next year being the guys that raise the taxes. We're saving the average household $25, and by all means, we should do that. But I'm just not sure that I buy into the term windfall for the savings. It's an incremental savings. We know that money is always tight, and we've got a lot of things to spend it on, and it never seems to be quite enough. But I can vote in the affirmative for this. Mr. Newell also got me some additional information. I want to talk about the business personal property tax for just a minute. As far as I know, the borough doesn't even collect that anymore, do they? Right?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, so the city collects the business personal property tax. So all the business owners out there in the community, in addition to paying property taxes, get to pay a tax on their file cabinets, equipment, computers, and it amounts to just under $380,000 a year. So a sizable chunk of change. But when we talk about and have speakers talking about being a business-friendly climate, I think as a future agenda item, I think I'd like to revisit this because I've been paying it myself for 30 years, and I've never been able to wrap my head around why I'm paying for the privilege of buying property that is less worth every year, unlike real property that appreciates. All the stuff that I'm paying this tax on, and there's a huge exemption on it. It's really not about the money so much as the principle of the fact that you're paying a tax on a depreciating asset. And I think that's the wrong message to send to the local businesses. But I think that might be a topic for another day.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Gage,
Gentilady?
Oh, yes.
Severson,
Dave.
Yeah.
Kiefer,
Yes.
Coos,
Yes.
Flora,
Yes.
Zingy.
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0, brings us down to 7A4, discussion of Ketchikan Driving Awareness Campaign. Council member Zingy.
Yay.
That's you.
So, as I've already know, there's a few of you just waiting here. So part of this, it came to my attention through Catherine Tatsuda and Kevin Kristovich. After there was the accident, they did a lot of public service announcements, and that brought out people. I've had people come and see me, and it made me pay attention to my own driving habits, and I spent more time watching other folks in the community. And it's not just texting, and it's not just phone, it's eating, it's doing your hair, there's all kinds of distractions that go on in this town. But we're a unique community anyway, and so we have people who move here from larger cities who come to this small town where there's, not many stop signs and a couple of stoplights, or is there one, and they become complacent. They don't expect that they're going to have to stop. They're racing through town. They're not stopping at crosswalks. And I thought, well, there's been a few people say, well, the cops need to get on it. We can't ticket ourselves into compliance. So I think that what I'd like to see is that we create a culture. So to that end, I contacted Carl and asked him if KPU, because I was very impressed with the Catch a Feeling video, and I thought, well, we have our own people. Why don't we see what they can come up with? So then they gave me the budget is $64,000. And that kind of made me go, well, wait a minute. So, but as I understand it, that's the top of the budget, right? So, and maybe Kim, you want to come and just explain that a little bit?
Kim Simpson, Division Manager, Sales, Marketing, and Customer Service for KPU and the city. This is a max budget. We were looking at potentially doing either a short promotion or long promotion. Judy thought a year would be good, so I looked at a year's worth of radio, using the radio, putting video together with that, looking at some direct mail. The signing thing, signs, people can become complacent with signs. So one of the things I thought about, because we can't necessarily sign Tongass, is putting big banners, double-sided banners across Tongass, and we can put them up, and the electric district can put them up and take them down, right? Because they do that anyway with a lot of other things. Right, Andy? So looking at some other signs, I don't know if we've got a definitive answer on periodically putting something up on signposts.
It's under review at DOT.
Okay, all right. On the power poles, since we own the power poles, we potentially could put our own up there. But looking at a couple different things, I've already pre-worked some of the radio ideas. I think we're looking at two different things, right? Crosswalks, being safe, walking at night, as well as the texting and driving. And then to reiterate, 1 in 4 accidents is from people texting and driving, which is more than drunk driving. And, we're always cracking down on drunk driving, and absolutely drunk driving is incredibly unsafe. However, the texting and driving is really common, and to Mr. Kristovich's comments, I've kind of stopped and watched people too, and it's absolutely correct. You'll see people, and I try and personally myself, if I'm in the car with my kids, I try and model the appropriate behavior, which is having them do a text or do a call for me. You can sometimes just have it and do voice text or putting it on Do Not Disturb, but I try and show my kids, and I think that's the thing is a lot of people tell their kids don't, but how many parents do? And then some of the other stats are that 96% of teens agree that they shouldn't be texting and driving, but 35% of them admit that they do. And that's a pretty big stat.
So it's more than 35%.
Yeah. Well, and they're not incredibly experienced drivers to begin with. So anyway, I don't need to do all the stats, but I think it's a very good idea. We can work with any combination of things on this budget. If you want to just do half of it, we can bring things back a little bit, but this was probably the max I was looking at for 12 months.
Bob? Did we check and see if there's any federal and state grants out there for highway safety? It is a state highway, so signage, all that kind of stuff comes to play for the state of Alaska. We have to ask permission to do anything with regard to placing signs. So I would imagine that the state, through the state troopers, public safety type stuff, have some kind of a budget for awareness campaigns. And I imagine the federal government does too. I mean, they have a huge federal, and this is a Gold Star Highway. I don't know if there's anything available to do that, but I think it'd be definitely worth looking into.
for that?
I think it's worth looking into, but I also think this is our community and we need to put skin in the game. These are our kids and these are our, citizens. And I don't know that, $64,000 seems high to me. Maybe we do a 6-month and see how it's going or something, I don't know.
Mark?
I got a couple of questions. How did you arrive at this formula?
There is quite a number of items that go into that. So one of them is radio production and then radio time. Those are pretty significant. Putting things into, for instance, the local newspaper or the TLP communications, those are fairly significant costs. But I looked at doing 3 direct mail campaigns, doing something on screen in the theater. There's a whole variety of different things here.
Yeah, I see the variety, and I know it's just a personal opinion. I'm not a big believer in direct mail. You see a lot of it laying on the tables at the post office, so I would be interested if maybe we could look at tweaking this some. And then the other question I have is, who and how do we quantify the result? So we do this, now how do we know how effective it was?
That's always a tough measure.
It is, because is it merely a statistical recantation of folks that were injured? We're not going to be able to quantify. Yeah, people are texting. I see less people texting now. I mean, there's, other than anecdotally, how do we know if it's been effective or not? What's that?
I mean, I don't know that how you're looking to find out. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be able to tell you, 40 less people texted when we were driving. I don't think you're going to be able to see that. But
About the only...
Hold on. Okay, Janet, Lee, Dave, and then Dick.
Hey, I think for one, when you do a promotion like that, positive reinforcement, it usually brings out the best. Most people will actually hone into it. One way you could probably kind of calculate is have some form of public, like a Facebook, tell us your experience, what'd you learn, did you, if you heard this ad, what'd you think, and were you more aware of when you were driving? Because you could, I'm sure Kim's probably thought, you could put, on the signs, you could put tags, go to this website and tell us what you think, things like that, because then it makes them think further.
Yeah, the social media was probably the most effective.
Sometimes work.
Anything else?
That was it. There's ways to kind of get an idea of how it works, because usually when people like something, they're going to speak up about it and talk about it.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say the only actual way, because you're looking at the stats, is to do some sort of a community survey afterwards to see, did you hear the message? Because that's what we're talking about. Did you hear the messages?
Yeah.
Now, once again, though, does that necessarily translate into actual action or improved behavior? I don't know. The cynical side of me says, and you mentioned this before, the cynical side of me is until you actually have police officers pulling over every third person who's texting, And I guess I support the idea of this, but also my lengthy experience in media shows that the longer something like this goes on, the more it just becomes noise. People stop hearing it. Really. Even when we had that little campaign after the death out there, it was effective for a few weeks, and then it kind of just went. It wasn't. People weren't hearing it anymore. So I think a year's a challenge.
Yeah, I'm like everybody else. I see a lot of people driving down the road, putting on makeup and combing their hair and texting and talking on the phone. So it is a problem, and something bad's going to happen one of these days. But I guess if we do this, to me, I'd like to see a statement with the purpose of what we're targeting. Right now, we said we want to do something, but we're not. I want to know what we're targeting with a purpose, and like Mark said, if there's any way we can measure success as part of what we agree to do. And then with that said, I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out how 3 radio ads, which I assume are different, cost $1,200 a piece. I can remember writing up ads and saying what we want to say, and unless we're paying a professional from out of the country to write up a $1,200 ad, that type of thing there, and what a video for radio audio is at $1,200. No, that's $2,500 a piece. Oh, the other one was $3,600 a piece. And then on-screen theater, I don't know what that is even. So there's some things in here that just bother me about. I know I'm not an advertiser, but the price to me seems kind of funny.
Well, I only have one great idea.
You put it in the newspaper.
Full page.
Well,
editorial.
I don't like these kind of things. I mean, you see them on the national, with the ad council and all that kind of stuff. But to me, if we can't get everybody, but the people you want to start hitting is the people that are learning how to drive. And I'd see something more specific, that we funded something that did something in the high school for every new the new drivers, or the kids went through the school and then out. At least we know we're contacting the future drivers, and we could do it over. Always provide something every year for the kids that are driving. Just more specific than just throwing it out there. I know there's older people that do it, and but I don't know if we want to try to do everybody. I'd just go after starting the new drivers. They're going to be the old people down the road, and just start working on that. But I'm just not a big. A year-long campaign. I believe in short campaigns, so I guess I'm not the right person for this topic. Bob?
I think some of the more effective ones is the police department used to do radio ads right after school gets out, because the kids are going to be out. And I thought that was, specific to the time of the year when the young kids are going to be out playing on the street, be aware, all this, and so people go, oh yeah, I get that, and they think about it a little bit, but that didn't go on for long. It went through that short period, and then we could also look at maybe something around the 4th of July, and then, around events maybe, and that kind of thing. But I do agree that when I'm going through my mail, a lot of those mailers, I read the first line, and if I'm not interested, it's gone. And then sometimes the ads on just become noise. I get that, unless you refresh them.
Okay, Mark, and then Judy.
Kim made a great comment. Social media is the most effective.
Correct.
And it's one of the smallest budget items.
But to do that, I need to produce the audio. And the audio is the radio. And yes, I do use a professional, because I have to be honest. If I take Michelle O'Brien and Julie and I put them and have them do something, no matter what it is, it's going to sound like every other ad. That's why we use very specific voices. And you can, there's a catalog of voices. I do use an Alaska company, but there's a catalog of voices. When I did the hospital campaign, I listened to about 45 different older women to get the right warm tone that I wanted. And so getting the right voices, this one radio ad that I'm looking at, because I've done pre-work on it, and involves convincing teen voices, not adults that everybody's heard on every other commercial. I'm not putting down what the local radio people do, but to put something that's unique. And then the intent was to take that and put video with my video crew on top of it, and so use it not only on the air but also behind the video. So the video number you see is a video production, at which point it goes on Instagram, it goes on to Snapchat, and it goes on to Facebook. And I can do snippets of it, or I can do the whole thing. And then right now, promoting a video on Facebook is very inexpensive. It could go up, but it's the production cost behind it.
Judy?
So I just want to clarify a couple of things. One, this is a discussion, Lou, so you are the right person. And the reason I picked a year is specifically for what you mentioned, Bob. So around certain times of the year. I want it to last a year, but we could do, the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, those kinds of things, those kinds of timelines. But because I think hearing something every single day might, lose its effectiveness. But
And this was doing two campaigns. This was doing something having to do with walking, crosswalks, not specifically crosswalks. I can tell you what the idea was. The idea was to talk about doing K-walk, not jaywalk. Down south, people do jaywalk, do the K-walk, which is, look, be aware of when somebody's coming. Try and make eye contact with the person. Do not wear dark clothing. Don't assume in the rain, because in Ketchikan, we always have rain, and you get rain and you get a little bit of reflection, and it can be pretty lethal. So it's trying to get people to be aware. Be a K-walker, not a jaywalker. So that was one campaign. Thank you. The other one is specifically with texting, and I'm not going to go through what it is, but it's pretty effective. It's a little bit scary, and it's kind of targeted at the young people. But I do want to say that one of the KPU vehicles was rear-ended by a professional person who was texting on North Tongass, who belongs to a different public body. So it's not just the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so where do you guys want to go with this? You guys want Kim to come up with a plan of attack in certain times a year, or is there 4 people who want to move ahead with this?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it seems
okay.
to evolve.
So what kind of direction do you want to give Kim? Judy?
Well, I think just based on the discussion that we've had, come up with, I think you
So audio, video, social media,
yeah.
kind of.
Come back and have it all spelled out for us.
Okay. Can I have some budget to work with?
You read our mind.
Well, not 64 Less than 64.
Come back with some ideas and we'll prove something.
Okay.
Financially wise.
For me.
Give us some options.
Okay. All right.
Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. I don't want to restrict you to. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. That brings us to 7.6, rescinding May 17th, 2018 approval of the transition documents of the city TL's John Dawson easement for the placement of rock berm in Thomas Basin and future construction waterfront promenade, and approving amended transition documents to include the Fisherman's Wharf LLC for the placement of rock berm in Thomas Basin and future construction of waterfront promenade.
We should just say so moved. I move the City Council rescind its May 17, 2018 approval of the transaction documents for the City T-Gals John Dawson easements for the placement of a rock berm in Thomas Basin and future construction of waterfront promenade. Approve the amended transaction documents, which now include the Fisherman's Wharf LLC to provide for the placement of a rock berm in Thomas Basin and future construction of a waterfront promenade, and authorize the city manager to execute the amended transaction documents on behalf of the City Council.
Second.
Moved in second. Dave, you got anything to add?
If that motion doesn't say it all, I can't imagine what would.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Coos,
Yes.
Flora,
Yes.
Zingy,
Yes.
Gage,
Yeah.
Severson,
Yes.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. Brings us down to 7B1, Resolution 18-2700, amending the City of Ketchikan compensation plan to provide for the classification of position of senior customer service or support specialist. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I move the City Council approve Resolution number 18-2700, amending the City Ketchikan compensation plan to provide for a classification of the position of senior customer support specialist and establish an effective date.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bob, do you want to add anything?
I think maybe have Ed come up and explain what the situation is here. I had a conversation with Ed in regards to this. I'm always concerned about how we are doing with our compensation plans and balancing them. And he gave me a good explanation of what this position is doing and what they're hoping to correct in their operations. So.
Sure. So Ed Cushing, Division Manager, KPU Telecommunications. So at KPU Telecom, we have 5 customer support specialists. And the customer support specialists are the folks who take local trouble calls. My internet's not working, my TV's not working, my phone's not working. And they're the first line of support. Do you see 3 green lights on your modem? Reboot your modem, reboot your set-top box, what have you. Presently, we call them CSSs, report directly to the Network Operations Manager. And the Network Operations and Engineering Manager is the person we rely on to be working with all the technicians to build out, to repair, to maintain, to engineer to build our budgets, everything having to do with the 4G LTE network and all the other high-tech stuff we're doing. But then he has to turn around and work directly with independently with these 5 CSSs, which is time-consuming, burdensome, doesn't work well. So what this proposal is to take one of the CSSs, create a new position, which is essentially a lead position. So the senior CSS would have the 4 CSSs essentially reporting up to this person. So they'd be getting their daily direction from the senior CSS instead of burdening the network engineering manager. That's 1. And then 2, the senior CSS would be responsible for working directly between the network engineering manager, the division manager of sales and marketing, supporting immediate needs they have relative to working with more complex problems, more complex issues that a particular customer might be having, and doing the follow-up and oversight and working directly with the CONTs, the network technicians, for more complex repair issues, more complex dispatch issues, and doing the follow-up to ensure that, 2 days ago we were working with Councilman Severson's line, has it been repaired? Where are we? That type of thing. And that's the essence of it, if that gets to your question.
Dick, do you have a question?
So, without an organization chart showing up with this proposal, am I assuming you're taking one of those 5 CSS you called it and creating them as the lead, and you're not adding a position?
No, there's no increase in the budget.
That was
positions.
not very clear here. So,
no increase in budget position.
Bob?
Yeah, one of the things that I've got in the past, and I don't know if we're still doing it, are we still doing pivot reports in regards to quality?
We are.
Would it be at some point in the future, it's not just something immediate, that maybe we get one and you go through us with us however we want to do that?
Happy to do that.
Yeah, just so we can see where we're at in regards to
Absolutely.
quality. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
Flora.
Yes.
Zingy.
Yes.
Gage.
Yeah.
Severson.
Yes.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Coos.
yes.
Okay, that passes 6 to 7-0. Find out where we were. Okay, that brings us down to vouchers. The Daily News, $11,907. Boy, it's been a long time. And Seek Professional Services LLC, amount of $130. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move for approval of vouchers to the Ketchikan Daily News in the amount of $11,907.48, and to Seek Professional Services LLC in the amount of $130.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Gage.
Yes.
Severson.
Yes.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Coos.
Yes.
Flora.
Yes.
Zingy.
Abstain.
That
Well,
passes
that's
5 to 1.
Is it SEAC or CC?
Bring-
That's what I thought. I was
Sorry.
following the mayor there.
City Manager's report. Mark?
You have the city manager's report from Carl. I have just one thing to add. The improvements to the Craig parking lot are now complete. So I'd like to express my thanks to the Engineering and Streets divisions and the Improved Order of Redmen for completing a successful joint project. So that parking lot is now open.
Excellent. Anything else? Oh, Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, I noted the thing about the Wells Fargo donation of the Nathan Jackson. Did the city send Wells Fargo any sort of official thank you, or did we just say thanks, guys?
I believe Anita Maxwell did thank them profusely. I will double check to see if there was a formal
It's
thank
always
you.
nice there's a formal paper trail saying thanks, guys.
All right. Anybody else any questions on the manager's report? All right. That brings us down to City Clerk's file,
None, Your Honor.
City Attorney's file, future agenda items. Okay. Mayor and council comments, Dick?
I really don't have a comment, but maybe a question for Mark. Seacon's back in town, apparently. are they going to, is there a schedule for when they work on our projects, streets?
Yeah, it's so they are back in town. There are a few small paving projects for us that they're doing, but the bulk of our work is scheduled to start mid-July.
Okay.
So they're going to be back then again.
Okay.
So that's when our big projects, our overlay projects are going to kick in.
Okay. What was month that was?
July. Yeah, mid-July.
And then also a follow-up question, this stuff that Seacon's doing down here on Stedman Street, they're gonna put asphalt on that before they quit this summer, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Concrete looks like it's getting close to being done.
So they're going to have some bridge deck work that they're going to do midsummer that's very moisture sensitive, so that's going to be tricky. And then they're going to be grinding the road out and paving it in.
So that, will they grind it out and pave it in after they do the deck work on the bridge? Will that be?
Yeah, I believe it's the. I will have to double check on that, Dick, the natural order of that.
Okay.
They may very well want to do the paving after the bridge deck work. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Judy?
Just a follow-up of our Health Transparency Committee meeting. SB 105 was waiting to be transmitted to the governor, which means it's in the Legislative Affairs office. I did talk with Shannon at our local LIO office, and she told me that the bill has an effective date of January 1st, 2019, so everything has just got to go through its process. We're good to go?
Excellent. Jenna Lee?
Not much, just up here at the Statewide Independent Living Board meeting, and some of the things that are coming up. They're looking at doing a campaign regarding service dogs versus behavioral and the other types of service dogs that people are using and what the rules are.
Very good.
So that ordinances don't have to be made.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Bob?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Okay, and you'll take care of the Monday thing?
Yes.
Thank you. Dave?
A couple things, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
First of all, let's follow up a little bit on what Dick was talking about regarding the Stedman Street project. And I was trying to remember the scope of the project, and I couldn't come up with this the other day, but is there going to be parking on Stedman Street when they're through with all those widened sidewalks?
Yes.
Because I was driving along there and then I thought, I'm not sure that would fit. You get a car, and suddenly it's pretty narrow. So
I've asked the question too because people down in Stedman have asked me the question. Did you want to add something? Come on up.
I'm John Logston. I'm the project manager for Seacon here in Ketchikan. Been a lot of questions about that. Those lanes down on Stedman were extraordinarily wide. By taking 2.5 feet out of the one side, they just took a foot out of each driving lane, basically. They're narrowing those up from they're narrowing them up from 14-foot lanes to 11-foot lanes. So the parking all remains. You will see mid-block down there by the IBEW hall. There's going to be a bump out where the pedestrians will have a crosswalk and can actually stand and look around the parked cars instead of coming out from between them. We plan on finishing the curb and gutter and sidewalk early next week. We'll grind the asphalt out probably around the end of next week. And we hope to have that all paid back in before the 4th of July. The Creek Street, the Ketchikan Creek Bridge there, the bridge number 724, is currently scheduled for the deck rehabilitation on that is our subcontractor told us today they're looking at the 16th of July for taking the pavement off of that. There's there's some deck work to do, and then it gets a coating of a some kind of concrete. Yeah, some fancy concrete instead of an asphalt coat, but it's lighter than the asphalt, so they're taking some weight off of that bridge. Back toward the beginning of the project, which is here at the tunnel, we have other work to do on the bridge rehabilitation on 1080 here and 1081 up on the corner. We'll have to take the asphalt off of those bridge decks before the concrete rehabilitation can happen, and we're hoping to do that in July or August, so that our subcontractor can get all that concrete rehabilitation done. After we get done paving on Stedman from the bridge to the end of the project near Tatsudas, that's the bulk of our work until the 1st of October again. We'll go back, on the 1st of October, we'll go back to work here right in front of City Hall, and also down around the corner just onto Mill Street on one side and start on the sidewalks. And so 1st of May rolls around next year, the sidewalks should be done. Work on the street, pave it out by mid-July again, and that should be that. So we've got till the end of August, but hopefully it won't take that long. So,
Dick and Judy both have questions.
Yeah, quick question. The Ketchikan Creek Bridge, will be one-way traffic at all times?
No.
Or we're going to have to go...
Well, it'll be, it'll be one-way traffic. It will be one-way traffic.
But it'll be
a
one-way.
detour.
Yeah, that's where
right.
It's working down there now. So,
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They'll have to close, that deck's going to be closed on one side probably for probably at least, I would say, a week and a half, and then they'll have to flop to the other side. So that detour is going to run, and it's going to be a 24-hour-a-day thing, because you won't be able to drive on that deck until they get it covered back up. So,
Judy?
Well, thinking about the 4th of July parade, how much of a challenge is that going to be?
like I said, we're hoping to have some pavement, at least the bottom lift of pavement on that road before the 4th. So we're going to make every effort to do that. I suppose we're going to have to start working that shift you guys wanted us to work from 3 a.m. to 1 in the morning, but
Just checking.
yeah, so,
Whenever it's not raining.
yeah, but we've been working 7 days a week down there to try and move that along, and pretty soon we'll be pulling those concrete barriers and all that pedestrian fencing down and go to work on that road. And I did want to tell Mr. Coos, Seacon did not come back to town because we have a full-time presence here. It's the pavers that float.
Oh, yeah, I knew that, yeah.
So, but yes, we're always happy to answer any questions for you, and if you guys just call the office if you wanted to come down and see the job and walk through it, we can take you through it and explain what's going on.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There is other work going on under the bridge, even as we're speaking, I think, on the tides. My engineer and I spent 2 years under that same bridge, so when the subcontractor asks us to come look at something, we're usually like, no, we've already been there.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Not through yet.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, also wanted to take a moment to congratulate both the Ketchikan High School softball team and baseball team. It's been, as far as I can tell, it's been over 40 years since Ketchikan's won a state title. So the fact they got second and third, I mean, for sports, is a big deal. And hopefully they'll. Yay! Okay, the final thing, Your Honor. I'm sorry to take up so much time tonight.
No,
this is we were talking before about trying to encourage better driving behavior, and I'm going to violate my own rule here that I never want to speak ill or negatively at all about local public safety people. But the other day, I was watching. I happened to look up, and I see police cars pass all the time. And I saw a police officer drive past, and it took me a minute. I realized it was the first time in about I don't know, 500 viewings of police cars going by me where the police officer was not on his cell phone. Now, I get the law gives them a pass. But if we're talking about trying to set a good example, maybe that's an area we need to think about. They don't. I get when they need to use their cell phones. I don't think they need to use their cell phones all the time. And yet, if you sit and watch a police car drive by, you will probably see someone on their cell phone. Now, if it's an emergency, I get that. But if we're trying to convince youth, if we're trying to convince other people to stop using their cell phones, we need to look at our own house a little bit and say, do we need to all... Like I said, I get the law exempts them. But just because we can do something, maybe we need to be thinking a little more about the message we're sending out to other people. If they're going to use them all the time. So, anyway. And now that guarantees I'll be pulled over tomorrow.
Mark?
Just one thing, Your Honor. I'd like staff to work on a few more sunny days and 15 degrees higher. That's it.
That's the borough's job.
That's the borough's job.
Mark, I was wondering if I talked to Nancy down at Talbot. She says she has, I guess she did what do you call it? I can't believe it, chemo brain. I'm sorry. She had her property assessed and everything. It has a value of now what she'd sell it for. Can you find out what that is? Not because I just think we should have that information of what's going on down there through the process. And if you guys could get that.
Sure.
And then I was going to congratulate the K High girls in softball and boys baseball. And I listened to all the games, and it was a lot of fun. I hope they do well again next year. A lot of them are coming back, so I was excited about that. Bob's going to take a help on the Blitz coming in on Monday on a ceremony. I did a chemo this morning, so I'm doing really good. So, but it'll hit me in about 2 days. I'm finding out on this one, so I probably won't be around much on Monday or Tuesday. So, if you need me, give me a text. I have nothing else. I think we have some executive sessions. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move the City Council declare consistent with the City Attorney's request dated May 23rd, 2018. It is in the best interest of the City Council to discuss pending litigation in Walter Richard versus the City of Ketchikan, ETAL, and give directions to the City Attorney in handling the matter in executive session in accordance with Ketchikan Municipal Code 2.04.025A1 and A1B and A3, which include the need to discuss subjects and knowledge of which would have an immediate adverse impact on the finances of the city, and to receive legal advice under the attorney-client privilege.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll, Madam Clerk. Jana Lee, you can go home.
I was going to vote no.
Kiefer,
Yes.
Coos,
Yes.
Flora,
Yes.
Zingy,
Yes.
Severson,
Yeah.
Do we call Jana Lee or not? No.
Gage. She can't participate.
Yeah.
So.
No.
All right, that passes 5-1. We're out of this in an executive session. Jana Lee, thank you for calling.
Okay, we'll be back in order. We met in executive session and gave the attorney directions. That brings us down to executive session number 2, request for executive session negotiation amendment to the Berth 4 lease amendment to undertake facility modification to accommodate post-Panamax vessels for 2019 cruise ship season, Ketchikan Dock Company. Do I have a motion?
Hey, Your Honor.
Dick?
I move the City Council declare that it's consistent with the City Manager's report dated May 23rd, 2018, that it's in the best interest of the City Council to discuss negotiations of an amendment to the lease and other definitive agreements between the City and Ketchikan Dock Company, LLC, related to the expansion of Berth 4 to accommodate larger vessels in executive session in accordance with Ketchikan Municipal Code 204025A1 and 3, which includes the need to discuss the subjects to the knowledge of which would have an immediate adverse impact on the finances of the city and to receive legal advice within the attorney-client privilege.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kiefer,
Yes.
Coos,
Yep.
Flora,
Yes.
Zingy,
Yes.
and Seaver.
Yes. We will now recess into executive session. Session, we met in regards to Earth 4. No action was taken at this particular point, so that moves us on to item B1, Ketchikan Public Utilities request for executive session to discuss negotiate strategies for the amendment of the price term, roaming rates, and core lease fees associated with LTE and Rural America Master Agreement between the City of Ketchikan, DBA Ketchikan Public Utilities, and Celsco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I move the City Council declare that consistent with the General Manager's memorandum dated May 24th, 2018, it is in the best interest of the city to discuss negotiation strategies regarding Verizon roaming rates and core lease fees charged to Ketchikan Public Utilities in accordance with Ketchikan Municipal Code 2.04.025A1, which includes the need to discuss subjects the immediate knowledge of which would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the city.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Coos,
Yes.
Flora,
Yes.
Zingy,
Yes.
Evertson,
Yes.
Kiefer.
No. I've had it. I'm done for the day.
We will recess into executive session.
That's the only something you're talking about.
I was like, what the heck?
All right, we're back in session. We heard from Ed in regards to LTE Light. No action was taken. That brings us to item 16, adjournment.
So,
Stand adjourned.
well, it's only 9:15, so